Okay, hi Greg. This is your personalized tutorial for ZBrush, new version. So let's start by setting up the workspace. You want to just make sure that your window fills the available screen, and you do that in Document. So I'm on a small screen here, so it's not going to be that big, but you might have a bigger screen. You can resize there. And then you can, these buttons here on the right, they're for viewing your screen. You can zoom in and out, which is not a feature you're going to use very much. But just click actual size, and that's set. Now, I like a flat background. It's up to you. If you change the background in this button under Document, and then you touch it and then just drag it anywhere in the screen, you've got your color palette here. So I like a nice sort of light grey. I don't want red, thank you very much. Something like that. Okay, so, well, I like these head planes that are provided in the new version. Very useful, and they come up as Dynamesh objects straight away. So you've got, if you touch one of them, you'll see more information. That's 256, 128,000. So what's that? Female, male. I'm going to use a what it's doing is it's actually a ZPR file, which is a new file. It's opening a whole new file for you. So it's asking me to save that in a place. I'm going to put that in your folder. So this is not so much a tool as a file in itself. It's a new file. So there it is. Now the good thing is that will come up centered. Now to set the object exactly in the front view, you hold down Shift and then drag the screen with your pencil. So now I can move this around, but you can see on the grid here at the bottom, it's exactly in the middle. If you hit frame just on its own, that always brings the object back to the middle of the screen, which is very useful if you end up, way over here. Just hit frame and you're back. So what we want to do is set up these reference images and start sculpting. So I'm going to take off perspective, so we have an orthographic view. Don't want a perspective view. See the difference? Now we have our floor grid on, but it seems to be only on the bottom. So if we click X and Z, then we see that we have the back and the side grids. So then we'll go to Draw and go down by using this scroll on the edge of the box I'm never quite sure which one's which, but we can try one of them. Let's try front back. Click on map 1, bring in your image, import front, oh, that's good. Front is actually front, but the image is off center. So we're going to fix that. It's also too big. So go back to your draw menu and you've got various controls here. Scale, horizontal offset, vertical offset, and it's just a question of moving these until you're satisfied. If you find that by moving the mouse or the pen it's moving too far, you can just touch. If you touch the area in the box, you can actually punch in numbers. Oh, it's a bit tricky to do, but just to let you know, these numbers can be controlled. You have to keep the pen there. You can punch in new numbers until you're absolutely satisfied. Okay, so, but we're just going to set it up roughly. Now, of course, you can zoom in to get more control. Just going to change the offset a bit more here. Now, as you know, no human face is in perfect symmetry, but symmetry is a very good way to start working with an object like a human. Okay, and then if you find that you can't see very well the object in comparison to the background, you can change that here under Enhance Factor and Enhance Opacity. You see the opacity decrease, so you see more of the model, less of the background. And here, the Enhance Factor it's more to do with the brightness of the model. Okay, then we need to do the same thing in the side. And that is going to be, oh, I should also let you know about the fill mode. You see how the model is transparent. This is because we have fill mode 3. If we have fill mode 2, you have a solid model. Fill mode 1 seems to take the reference away. But you could have fill mode 2 and then set up your reference to the side, which is very useful. But let's have 3. And then we'll get our side view. Same again. It's a bit tricky to keep this menu under control. Left, right, map 1, import, profile, and then you're going to have to do the same. Yeah, yes, this is the problem. We shouldn't have changed the size. If you've set up your reference images to be exactly correctly aligned in terms of, you know, the size, where the position of the eyes, what we need to do is actually adjust the size of the model, not the size of the images. Fatal mistake. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to just re-import that front view. And here he is. Do that again. Oh. Okay, that's not working. I guess what we have to do is change the scale, change the position, tapping, and then just clicking 0, 0, enter. Then we have the same setup on both sides. Okay, fair enough. Now, what we can do is we can accept a horizontal change for the front view, but not a vertical change, for obvious reasons, because we want to keep the eyes and the positions lined up. So I'm going to just make sure that I'm happy with the horizontal line up like this. Okay, now we're going to work on scaling the model. Now, when you click the move tool here at the top, you'll automatically get this gizmo. This is quite useful, this gizmo. It's a new feature. If you click the yellow frame, the scale is increased. If you click the green arrow head, you'll move the whole object in space. Don't touch the red one or you'll offset from absolute center. So, I mean, I think that's almost, now what I did there by accident was I grabbed this red rotation tool. So I'm going to undo that. We can just have a look in rotation in the side profile. Happy to move it up and down. Even happy to move it back and forward. But not side to side with the red one. I'm going to increase the scale slightly based on what I can see from the side here. Okay. Now we're good. I'll just explain a bit more about the move, scale, rotate differences from the old system. Let me just put that fill mode back to 2. Now, I really like this new gizmo. It took a bit of getting used to, but it's nice. This lock allows you to change the position of the gizmo, and then you can lock it back. If you don't want to use the gizmo and go back to the old way, which is sometimes preferable for certain operations, you can turn it off here. It took me ages to figure this out. And then you have this drag line, which you can, I'm in here it is, transform, symmetry. I'm going to take that off for a minute. I'll just show you. If I drag this, you can have different types of control. If I drag this and I hold down Shift, it will snap 45 degrees, 90 degrees, etc. So in the Move tool, you want to hold the middle circle, and that will move the object. Undo. If you're in the Move tool and you grab this one, you're going to affect the scale in that axis only, which can be very useful, especially for the low relief kinds of things. If you wanted to do a low relief, you could flatten your object very much in one axis, like that. And then you have the scale tool. Grab the outside one. You'll find that it doesn't scale very much, even if you drag the mouse all the way across the screen. Rotate, again, grab the end one, and you can do a free rotate. So sometimes it's preferable to use the old transpose tool. Okay. Now, if you want to do some sculpting, I often start with the profile, and we already have a Dynamesh object. You'll find Dynamesh is already on, so we don't need to worry about all these layers and dividing and deleting the lower subdivisions. With Dynamesh, you can view the polygons by clicking this Draw Polyframe, and Fill means you can see the color of the polygons. Line, if you take that off, you just see the lines. If you zoom in, you can see what a Dynamesh object consists of. Nicely subdivided into equal-sized shaped, equal-sized polygons. Now, if I do some big adjustments, for example, if I go to the Move tool, then I increase the draw size. you see what happens? All those polygons get stretched quite dramatically. But the beautiful thing about Dynamesh is that that can be corrected by re-dynameshing, which you can do by clicking the button again. That's done. And now if you zoom in, you'll see all that's been corrected. If you want to avoid going to click the button every time, a very good shortcut is hold down Command. You'll see the circle turn yellow. This is as if you're going to do some masking, but instead of masking, you just click and drag outside. Yes, this is only when Dynamesh is on. So we'd have to have Dynamesh on. If you did any other adjustments, then you want to Dynamesh again. Click and drag. Command, drag, and you see it's processing again. And it's done. Okay, so I'm just going to undo that ridiculous nose. You'll find if you hover over these buttons, you'll get sometimes a detailed explanation. Okay, turn that off so we can see better. Turn on the transparency and we can start to sculpt with Symmetry on. Under Activate Symmetry, Transform. Make sure you're in the right axis. So you should see now, instead of one dot, you should see two. That's good, I can see two and they're in the right axis. I don't want one here and one here. I want them on opposite sides of the face, obviously. Then we can start sculpting with various tools. The Move tool is very useful. I would definitely use that very often. Using quite a large draw size, you can start to pull shapes like this, and everything will be in symmetry, so we can just grab areas. Now the Move tool, it will behave depending on your view. So if I move the object and I move my tool, if I use my tool, it will very much depend on the angle of my camera view, as it were. So I can't fit everything onto my screen with this layout. I'm just going to, that's better. Now I can see how many points I've got. If I really make the draw size huge, and then I touch here, you'll see much more of the object is affected. If I reduce the draw size, which is the brush size, you see a much smaller area is affected. So, you know, I feel comfortable about the positions in the front view. So I'm going to have another look at the side view and make smaller adjustments. And then you just have to get into sculpting. Zooming in. So I'm going to go back to solid, and I'm going to take off some of these kind of robot edges. A good tool for flattening off is flatten, and intensity affects how much the tool responds. Size is important, so I can just start shaving off these strong edges. Making it more realistic. I've got another video where I sculpt this guy to quite a realistic level, and I can show that to you, but it's very long, so I'll need time to prepare it to render the video. Anyway, you get the idea of that. Now, smoothing, very important. If you want to smooth an area, it's a bit confusing, but you have these smooth tools. The one it automatically is set to is very useful. Hold down Shift and you'll see the brush change to a smooth tool. If you keep holding Shift, if you let go, it goes back. But hold it down and then use the tool. And you see all that smoothing out. See these rough edges. Now, you'll see that smoothing kind of reduces volume. See that shrinking away, that edge, that corner? It shrinks. So that's something to consider. It doesn't just smooth, but it kind of shrinks the volume at the same time. Look how that edge is smoothed out. Smoothing's really great. Another tool you're going to use a lot is slice. I think slice is very important. I'm going to get some transparency back for this and show you the slice tool. slash, pardon me, it's called slash. If you touch the object where you want to work, then zoom in, it will come to the area that you want. That's an invaluable trick. Now, I find when I open slash, it automatically comes up very, very intense. So I need to take that down. I also want the focal shift to be at 0. That means it's not too hard-edged like an airbrush. And then when I bring down the size, and then you can describe areas like lips, the indentation of the lips. I can't see the model very well at the moment, so I'm just going to have a look at these enhance tools. You see a bit more of the model. But I also want to see the image. It's tricky just getting the balance there. Anyway, if I drag that tool, you'll see it's really stretching those polygons. They're very stretched. So very often I want to do a redynamesh, then process those mesh faces. Okay. I guess the most common sculpting tool, the basic sculpting tool is the clay build-up. It'll automatically set itself to a square alpha, which means it's going to impose a kind of square shape, which is not really usually what you want. You can see this. It definitely looks like a square. Oh, that looks a bit soft actually, but anyway, more often you want to take that off. So you have a freehand tool with no alpha, and then you can introduce volume like in the nostrils. And then you want to do some smoothing. Sculpting and smoothing, sculpting and smoothing. Okay, changing your brush size as you need. Smoothing. Just getting a rough idea to begin with. Now, with the clay build-up or any other tool, it's usually, apart from the slicing tools, you're adding material like this. If you change it to subtract, it's doing the opposite. But normally, you don't want to change these buttons. If you hold down Alt, it changes from add to subtract. So I'm adding, hold down Alt, I'm subtracting. Now, obviously, areas like nostrils, you'll want to do some subtracting. So you go in there and you're cutting away. If you do a lot of cutting away, you'll get some very stretched polygons. So redown a mesh. And if I touch that nostril, zoom in, it still looks a bit lumpy, but you know that they're fixed. I can always see that with the lines. And then I can smooth those areas. You can do a certain amount of sculpting and a certain amount of smoothing before you re-dynamesh it. But every so often you're going to have to re-dynamesh to keep things moving smoothly. Okay, this is a horrible sculpture, but it's just to give you the idea. I'm just smoothing those lips. Okay, anything else? Other tools I like to use, Inflate. Inflate is nice. I don't really know how to explain why I would use Inflate instead of the clay tool, but Inflate is pretty self-explanatory. If I'm inflating, I'm just getting a certain place to expand. I know if things get really messy, sometimes Inflate helps to fix and then do a re-dynamesh. So it's just a combination of different tools. You can slash around an area like this. See, it sounds terrible, slash, but it can be quite soft. And you can work an area like that. This is too big for the lips. You want to build up some areas like that. Softening. Flatten's good. Flatten these areas. Okay, Greg, well, I hope that's useful. If I think of anything else, I'll let you know. And you let me know if there's anything you need to know about specific aspects of it. Okay, cheers.